Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. So today I'm going to be ranking the top 10 turrets in Tanki Online. Now we're looking purely at the base form of the turret, no augments involved because augments can obviously drastically change how a turret works. Of course, this is my personal list. Let me know what your top 10 list would be down in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to use code Taspens if you're going to purchase anything in the item shop. Without further ado, let's get straight into the list. So number 10 spot's going to go to Ricochet. If you aren't using any augments on Ricochet, it's overall just kind of an average turret. You don't have fast fire rate, you don't have really long range. It's kind of good for medium range, but it also does self damage if you hit yourself with your pellet. And although Ricochet is pretty decent in medium and low ranks, it's just not that great in high ranks, and overall it's kind of just an average turret, and that's why it's going to go in the number 10 spot. The number 9 spot's going to go to Aceta. Now Aceta is just a great run-of-the-mill turret. You can heal your teammates as well as attack the enemies. This turret does a pretty decent amount of damage, and without any augments still holds up really well. Overall, Aceta is still pretty unique when it comes to turrets. There's not a ton like it just because it shoots a cool little beam out of the front. And overall, Aceta is just kind of a great turret to use if you don't really know what you're gonna use, and that's why it's gonna go in the number 9 spots. So the number 8 spot's gonna go to Striker. Now I wasn't gonna have Striker on the list, it wouldn't have even made the top 10 if it didn't have the salvo rockets. Now of course everyone knows when you hold left click or you hold spacebar with Striker, you're able to lock onto someone and shoot multiple rockets. Now unfortunately Striker at its base isn't that great, it doesn't do a ton of damage. Even if you have double damage on, it still can't one tap someone that often. But one thing Striker has going for it is that even if someone has protection against Striker and you hold that salvo shot, you can still kill them almost every time. So that's why Striker is going to get the number 8 spot. So the number 7 spot's going to go to Hammer. Now Hammer without any augments is still pretty decent. You get 3 shots that have a relatively decent amount of range to them, and they still do a pretty decent amount of damage to the enemies. And overall it just does a little bit more damage than some of the other turrets and is more viable in a lot of the situations. So that's why Hammer's gonna go in the number 7 spots. So the number 6 spot's gonna go to Shaft. Now depending on your playstyle, this turret can kind of go up or down in the list depending. Because if you play super reserved and you're defending, this turret could be the number 1 spot for you because you're always sitting back and you're always doing a crazy amount of damage when you have a full shot ready. But if you're playing offensive and don't have any augments on Shaft, it doesn't do a crazy amount of damage, but it's still better than some of the other turrets that shoot just as fast as Shaft. Overall, I really do like Shaft and I think it's in a good spot on the list. It kind of works for almost any playstyle. Sure, it's not as great up close, but it still works amazing for medium and long ranges. So number 5 spot's gonna go to Gauss. Now right now the charge up time for Gauss is just crazy, and you also get splash damage when you charge up, so you're able to do a ton of damage to people depending on the map you're on. Now there aren't many augments for Gauss either, so a lot of people who are using Gauss are already just using the base version. Overall, Gauss does a really decent amount of damage. It's better than Thunder because it's basically Thunder plus a charge up shot. So overall this turret really is great, and that's why it's gonna get the number 5 spots. So the number 4 spot's gonna go to Tesla. Now without any augments, Tesla still works amazingly. When you shoot your orb off and you just sit in one spot, you can shoot people from around corners, you can shoot them from longer distances depending on how you're playing, and overall Tesla just does a actually decent amount of damage when it has 0 augments on. Although Tesla has been nerfed since it originally came out, it's still definitely one of the better turrets in the game right now and definitely worth picking up. That's why it's gonna go in the number 4 spot. So the number 3 spot's gonna go to Scorpion. Now Scorpion without any augments isn't nearly as good as Scorpion with the Swarm augment. Now don't get me wrong, base Scorpion is still really good if you play at long ranges. If you don't have the Swarm augment on Scorpion, it does start to lose its versatility when you get closer range, because then you're going to be restricted to just your left click, you're not going to be able to use your rockets. The non-rocket hit on Scorpion still does a crazy ton of damage against people with protection, so that's why it's going to go in the number 3 spots. So the number 2 spot's going to go to Freeze. Now if you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know Freeze is my favorite turret to use, and I definitely use it for good reason. Freeze just does a crazy amount of damage, and on top of that, it's still amazing without augments. Although there are some augments on Freeze that give it a nice damage buff, if you aren't using those augments, you get both the freeze effect and constant damage to the enemy. If you're using a medium or even light hole, you can easily maneuver around the enemy while freezing them and do constant damage. Not to mention, since you're doing so much damage to the enemy, you get your critical shots fast as well. Overall, this turret's really fun to use. It's so unique that it freezes someone. I mean, we don't get many turrets that do these type of things in battle, so overall, I definitely think Freeze deserves the number 2 spot. Now the number 1 spot's gonna go to Magnum. I know a lot of people who are really good at Magnum can agree with me that Magnum is OP at its base level. Without any augments, if you're able to hit your shots from across the map or even halfway through the map, you can do so much damage to the enemy players. Now Magnum's crazy because on top of doing good base damage, it does a crazy amount of splash damage. The biggest problem with this turret though is that it does take a lot of skill. It's probably the most skilled turret in this game just because you have to learn the angles and the amount of power you have to put in each shot depending on how far away the enemy is. Overall, this turret really does deserve the #1 spot because of how complicated it can be to use for newer players, but it's definitely worth learning. So I would pick this up and just start using it on the side to learn how to use it because it really is good. So that's my list, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, let me know what your favorite turret or one of your favorite turrets is in the comments below. Don't forget to use code Taspens in the item shop, and I'll see you in future videos. Peace out, guys.